What the city is talking about, the news that impacts you. Welcome to the Montreal Now podcast with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
I'm David Hertel, filling in for Aaron and Natasha, and this is the Montreal Now podcast. This week, we spoke to a postdoctoral researcher about Uber's behavior. An astrophysicist will tell you about the new images from the James Webb telescope. We break down the new inflation rate and new banking rules that will affect Canadians. But first, we start off a little close to home and speak to the former mayor of Montreal, Denis CODERRE, and his involvement helping to raise money for the Pope's visit in Quebec City. I'm joined now by Denis CODERRE.
A fan of David Hertel, so I'm going to get a nice interview. I'm not running anymore, so I'm okay.
That's right. You're not running for anything.
So it must be true. I'm not seeking for anything.
Thank you so much for coming in the studio. It's great to see you. So how you been?
I've been great.
Yeah.
Great.
A lot of people have been asking about you. So how you keeping busy?
I always slept since I'm 13, 4 hours and a half per night. So I fill it up. And I said, the Pope is coming. Let's take care about it.
So the Pope is coming to Quebec City at the end of the month, right? Yep. July 26th and 27th, I think?
July 24th to 29. He's going first in Alberta, Edmonton, St. Anne Lake. He's going to meet the survivors and all that. He's coming in Quebec on the 27 to 29. Quebec City, Plaine d'Abraham, the Basilica of Quebec, but he's going to Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré. The devotion of the First Nation for the people of faith is Saint Anne. So there's kind of a consistency there. But and then he on the 29th, for a couple of hours, he's going to go to Iqaluit because when he met the survivors delegation in April in Vatican, he promised the Inuit to be there too.
Okay. So how did you get involved with the Pope's visit? What happened?
Well, first thing first. I was one of the first minister at that time with Paul Martin after Mr. Chrétien resigned to appoint me in some specific portfolio for the First Nation issues. First of all, when I was a member of Parliament, my first task was, because I'm a great believer in Louis Riel, and we tried not to pardon him, but to erase the way he was condoned, because he was innocent, period. And there was some game there with the Orangists and all that. But afterwards, I became president of the Privy Council, and some of the portfolio that I took care of, besides Francophonie, was to be the spokesperson of the government regarding issues with Kanesatake and Akwesasne. I was also the representative for the First Nation outside reserve. I was also in charge of the Métis file, but I was in charge of the office of the residential school. So I've been living personally some healing circle, everything regarding reconciliation. I've been living myself some people who when did their coming out about the sexual abuse, the atrocity. So I was always there. And, when I was Minister of Immigration, I was focused, like you, on the living together.
Right.
So the balanced approach between openness and vigilance. So I was always, and even before I was Member of Parliament, I took care of des Orphelins du Plessis when I was a radio host at CKVL.
I remember that.
So it's been 25 years. Afterwards, as mayor, when we changed the flag, when our brother and sister from the Mohawk Nations, we changed it for the Pin Blanc, the white pine, which is a symbol of peace since the Great Peace in 1701. We create a task force with l'Union des Municipalités du Québec, with my good friends Pierre Corbeil from Val d'Or and the mayor of Sainte-Terre at that time, and we kind of create a new governance way, like Paul Martin did with the Kelowna approach. Okay, so I've been on the case of reconciliation for 25 years now. In 2017, if you do recall, I went to La Prima Fila every Wednesday. The Pope is having a mass, and then he's meeting the fidèles and the people. And I was with Cardinal Lacroix and Bishop Lépine from the Diocese of Montreal, and I officially invite him for the celebration. For the same case, regarding the living together, he couldn't come with motivation, and it was really a motivated reason. But the Pope's representative in Ottawa, l'annonce apostolique, sent us a letter saying that he will come in 2018 or in 2019, and then pandemic occurred.
Right.
So after that, since 2007, there was a collective action from the First Nation against the church and the government. We create the Office of Truth and Reconciliation by 2009 up to 2015, and there was some recommendation. If you do recall, afterwards, there was official apology from the Government of Canada, several part of the clergy, but in last April, there was a delegation of the survivors who met the Pope, and it was about formal apology, to listen to them, and he promised, and it's part of his mission, to come to Canada and officially went to some of the area and focus on the survivors and their families. So in Edmonton, it's about the pardon, and it's about the formal apology. After that, in Quebec, it's reconciliation. We need to put an end to it. It's a bit like apartheid with South Africa. They lived the worst, but first they had their commission of truth and reconciliation. Then they pass for another subject. Doesn't mean that you forget the past, and those who did those atrocity has to pay. At the same time, you need to provide hope for the future and make sure that we take care of all those collateral atrocities from there. Look what happened in Milton Park here. There are several, toxicomany and all that. It's horrible. So we're focusing on that, and it's kind of a process. And I'm really proud. So in last end of May, we had the official convention in Quebec City from Union des Municipalités du Québec. And when I knew that he was coming, I met Cardinal Lacroix and I offered my services. So I volunteered.
Oh, so you stepped up.
No, listen.
You just said,
I'm not missing a great opportunity to be part of it. Okay. And so I became his formal ambassador for fundraising for Eastern Canada. I'm a facilitator because, remember, I had a talking stick from Ghislain Picard when I was mayor, who provide me. It's an important symbol of when I'm with leaders, I'm one of them, and we can talk freely, and I have that trust. And as a spokesperson, sometime I love to come back to radio and meet friends.
So the fundraising it's been quite an operation. So in the Journal de Montréal this morning, we read that you've raised approximately $3 million for the Quebec part of the visit.
A lot of generosity, and I know what's the next question. Why do we have to raise money?
Yeah, because a lot of people are asking that question. Why would the Catholic Church need to fundraise to host the visit of the Pope?
For three reasons, but I think it's important maybe to have some comparative. When the Pope Jean-Paul II came for the World Youth in Toronto, I remember because I was Minister of Sports just before I became Minister of Immigration, and I brought the cross from Rome to Toronto. And it was a festive event, which is not the case now, but the budget was over $125 million. Crazy. Festive, but too much. And now it's all about to be humble and frugal. It's all about the survivors. We're not making anything. We are bringing people together at the crossroad to pass a new chapter and help them to be equal to everybody and have a life for their future.
So why does the Catholic Church not foot the bill?
And the budget is $18 million.
It's $18 million.
It's important. And the expense in Quebec only is $3 million. So you can imagine with the broadcasts, with the venues, with transport, Plain Abraham Plain, we'll talk about that. So listen, he's a statement too. It's officially an invitation from the Government of Canada. And we think that we have a role to play because it's not just about the church. It's all about Canada. It's all about...
it's about truth and reconciliation.
So we said, and there is a creation of a reconciliation fund from the Conference of the Bishops in Canada. You do recall that the Government of Canada put aside $40 billion. $20 billion that have been announced this week in services. We're talking about transport and all that. So we said, listen, I think it's important to make some gesture on that. And I said, some people say, when you invite somebody to dinner, do you make them pay? So no. But it's on volunteer. So I spoke with institution. People, if they want to donate, we have a website which it's papalvisit.ca. If they want to be bénévole, volunteers, they can help too. I will have some announcement in a few days about the next step where the importance is that everybody has to live that historic moment. It's going to be tough because some people, it's like post-traumatic syndrome. They relive it. So we need to focus also on mental health. It's about awareness. It's about what kind of society you want to live in. It's about to not only reconciliate with the First Nation, but with ourselves. So I think it's important because of the importance of the event. And I trust that Pope. I love that Pope. I mean, he's like a priest on the field, working with the people, for the people. He's even putting up a tribunal for the abuser. And, he's not hiding. And he's not establishment. And I like that. I kind of like the drive that he's brought. But it's more than just a spiritual moment. It's also about Canada. It's about the way we treat our First Nation, Métis and Inuit. It's about the living together. How can we build up together? So some people will give. There's three ways to raise money. One, with money. Two, by taking the bill. Okay, we can take transport, and people wants to invest directly to the communities. Or three, you cut the expenses. So I'm doing three stuff.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that visit. We'll be watching for you in Quebec City, Denis, and I wish you all the best.
Well,
for
thank
the
you.
Pope's
Thank
visit.
you very much to invite me. I think that it's everybody's business. There's many ways to help and be part of it, and let's all build up the future together where everybody is number one citizen.
Denis Coderrere, thank you very much for coming in this afternoon.
Pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Informative, interactive, and always interesting. This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
New banking rules have come into effect in Canada. What are some important changes you need to know about? Here's DUFF CONACHER, co-founder of Democracy Watch, a corporate responsibility advocacy group. David Hertel in for Aaron and Natasha. Well, new banking rules have come into effect in Canada. So what are some of the important changes you need to know about? Joining us is the co-founder of Democracy Watch, a corporate responsibility advocacy group, DUFF CONACHER. DUFF, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So what do we need to know about these new rules? I mean, they're meant to protect us consumers, right?
I wish.
I thought you would say something like that. So what I read is that, for example, like the minimum payment on a credit card now goes from 3% to 3.5% and stuff like that. Do you have other examples to give us?
Yeah, there are some requirements. They're really, though, amount to baby steps forward, and they're self-enforced. So the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada is just, they're guidelines, so they're just expecting the banks to follow the guidelines.
Oh,
and
that's something.
And that's just not enough.
So give us some examples. So they're self-enforced. So that means these are not hard set rules that the banking industry has to follow?
There's one where now the banks have to deal with the complaint within 90 days. That's been reduced to 56 days. But the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada is a confirmed lapdog. It has let off so many banks. It can't even name a bank that's violated the law unless they prosecute, and they've never prosecuted any of the big banks in the last 19 years since they started up.
So let's talk about these customer complaints. So the regulations prior to this change, a bank had 90 days to respond to a customer complaint. Now it's down to 56 days. This is such a strange number. Do you know why? What 56 means? What it represents? Was it just the negotiations with lobbyists? What?
I'm not sure why it ended up there, but it's ridiculous because the whole complaint system is broken. You have to go to the bank to complain.
You have to go physically to the bank?
Well, no, just to their person who was paid by them.
Right.
Initially. Then you can go with some of the banks to the Ombudsman for Banking Services and Investment. Mm-hmm. But Jim Flaherty, when he was finance minister under Stephen Harper, some would say, oh, he had a reputation for standing up for the little guy. Not for the 30 million bank customers across Canada. He allowed some of the banks to leave the ombuds process, and so they now use their own judges, arbitrators that they use, and consumers are forced to use arbitrators that the banks pay for.
So, go ahead.
Which is just, it's just rigged. And they're still allowed to. Another one left when Bill Morneau was finance minister. And so the big question for Chrystia Freeland, who wrote in a book called Plutocrats more than a decade ago, when she was a journalist, that the role of government is to set out clear rules to require businesses to act in good ways and to police them and enforce them. And we don't have that now. We have these baby step rules that are enforced by a lapdog, Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, who has a really bad enforcement record, way worse than the same watchdogs over banks in the U.S. and the UK. Not that they're great. And most of the guidelines are self-regulation, where the banks just have to change things internally themselves, including setting up a whistleblower protection system that the bank will run itself, which just violates every standard of best practice whistleblower protection. And is Chrystia Freeland, going to live by her own words, which is government is there to set out clear rules and police them to require businesses to act in good ways? Or is she going to continue to allow the banks to gouge and abuse 30 million customers across the country, which they do without any real sanction or penalty or even watchdogging?
What is your reaction to certain of these specific rules? Like, for example, a consumer is liable for $50 when their credit card is stolen. I don't get that. Why are we liable for $50 if our credit card gets stolen?
I agree.
I don't understand. I don't even understand the rationale here.
No, and again, the real problem with any of these rules is, let's say the bank violates it. You're then on your own. And you're up against the banks who use all the money they gouge out of us to pay for lawyers out the yin-yang to delay and fight you and frustrate you if you ever tried to get one of these situations corrected. And so the whole system is balanced and tilted in favor of the banks, rigged in favor of the banks. And again, is Chrystia Freeland going to do one thing she's promised to do, which is to establish a fully independent complaints commissioner that all the banks will be required to use again. And that was announced in the budget, and months are ticking by, and she hasn't done anything about it, as well as other promises. She promised to give the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada the power to review bank fees and interest rates and determine whether they amount to gouging, and if they do, to order changes to lower them. And that was promised by the Liberals at last fall's election, and they haven't said boo about it since. So, it's a real question. Is she just a usual finance minister, even though she's a woman, a member of the old boys club that is protecting these big bank CEOs and their multi-million-dollar salaries? Or is she actually going to do something to protect 30 million bank customers? And it always puzzles me. Not even the NDP, who you would think would really go after the banks, not even the NDP has really had a strong platform on bank accountability in the past 30 years. And these parties and party leaders say they want to be elected into power, and they won't do something to help 30 million voters. It's really weird. If you want to be in power, do something to help 30 million voters. It'll probably help you win. Same with telco. We could talk about the telco companies as well. Same thing. Millions of customers, and yet no action that stops the gouging and abuse.
So what should be done? I have a few minutes left, Duff, and I'd like to know, for you, what would be the priority? So what should be done concretely?
The number one thing to do with every business sector is they all email statements to their customers and still mail to some of them that wanted to receive it by mail. And if the government in every business sector said, businesses, you have to send out at the top of your email a notice that says, join the group that will watchdog over your business and industry. Then we form a telecom consumer organization, a financial consumer organization, an airline passengers organization, a utility customer organization, all formed by requiring the businesses to notify customers that these new groups that the government would establish exist, and here's how to join. And with banks, 30 million customers, if the fee was $20 a year to join it, the group would have $6 million as the annual budget, and it would be able to change everything in the marketplace, including winning stronger laws to protect financial consumers. And this would cost the government nothing and cost the banks nothing. And we're not getting pickup on this. We've been pushing it for 29 years, and no minister has said they want to do this. If you're against this, you're essentially saying, I don't care about customers. They should be on their own, disempowered, up against the big businesses and their high-powered lawyers, all paid for by consumers, and we'll just let them sit there out on their own and get gouged and abused. And that's what minister after minister has done. This is a simple solution. We're calling on the Minister of Industry, Francois Champagne, to do it right now for the telecom industry. It's a part of the solution in any sector, is empower consumers, give them an organization to call that's their own, that they fund and that they run, and that has the resources to really help them with complaining, lawsuits, and advocacy.
Well, Duff, thank you very much for coming on this afternoon.
My pleasure.
DUFF CONACHER is the co-founder of Democracy Watch, a corporate responsibility advocacy group.
Asking questions, looking for answers. Here's more of Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
The first observations of the James Webb telescope were unveiled this week. Joining us is NATHALIE OUELLETTE, outreach scientist for the Webb telescope.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
I am so excited by this next story. Have you seen the pictures from the James Webb telescope? They are awesome. And I wanted to start this segment in honor of our next guest with the great Star Trek opening theme. NATHALIE OUELLETTE, an outreach scientist for the Webb telescope. She was present at the unveiling of these amazing pictures this morning with NASA and the Canadian Space Agency. NATHALIE, thank you so much for making the time this afternoon.
It's my pleasure.
So these pictures are awesome. They're amazing. I just can't find the words. So you, as a scientist who's dedicated her entire life to this, I mean, what's your reaction?
I have to say, I'm also human, and so my reaction was quite similar. I was speechless when I saw them for the first time last week. But then you start looking at the pictures in more detail, and what really blows my mind is how much stuff is in there. Everywhere
Yes.
you look, there's a star, there's a galaxy, there's gas, there's dust, there's just so much stuff. We tend to think of space as an empty thing, but no, it's filled with stuff.
And I love the technical term stuff, right?
Right, star stuff.
It's star stuff. So tell me more. So what is the most surprising thing so far? I mean, I know you just have this information like a day, but I mean, what is surprising for you? What stands out so far?
What really stands out is the fact that these images were taken over not that much time, only a few hours worth of observations, and they are already rivaling or even beating previous telescopes who need to take observations for days or even weeks to get this kind of detail and resolution.
Okay, so this is like compared, for example, to Hubble. What are we talking? Is like how would you characterize the difference between the old telescope, the Hubble, and this, the Webb?
So we know that the resolution on Webb is a few times better. Its light gathering capacity is 7 times better. And we're also looking at a whole different kind of light here. So Hubble is like a giant human eyeball who can see visible light. With Webb, we're looking at the infrared universe. So we're seeing things that were invisible to us before.
So what has appeared that you didn't see before?
So some of the things that we are seeing just littered all over these images are very, very distant galaxies because their light has traveled very, very long distances over an expanding universe and has actually been shifted from visible light into infrared light. So they were invisible for the Hubble telescope, and they are now just sparkling in the distance with Webb.
So when you say distance, give us an idea. I mean, how far away are these galaxies, are these stars that you're not now seeing?
Yeah, so certainly for the galaxies, these galaxies are so far away, we no longer use kilometers. Even the stars, we no longer use kilometers. We use light years.
Light years.
And so the farthest galaxy we detected on these images was 13.1 billion light years away.
Oh, my goodness. I don't even know what that means. So we'll just say it's far away.
It's very far away.
So in terms, obviously, I'm sure others have asked you this question today. What does it mean about, the probabilities of life being somewhere on these planets, in these systems, in these galaxies?
Certainly, planets and exoplanets, it's one of the cornerstones of the Webb mission. We want to find out more about that. We had our first exoplanet atmosphere probe today, very exciting. And so we are going to be able to look at the atmospheres of distant worlds with a degree of precision we've never had before to maybe spot interesting biological signatures, or at least molecules like water vapor or oxygen, which leads us to believe that there might be Earth 2.0s, like Earth twins out there that could harbor life.
And so for a lot of people, spending billions and billions of dollars on this doesn't seem like the right set of priorities. It's not my opinion, of course, but I want you to explain why this type of research and this type of endeavor is so important.
Certainly. So this requires such technological advancements to do this kind of science, and it's driven by our curiosity as humanity to answer these great questions. Where do we come from? How did the universe begin? Is there life out there? But because we have to innovate so much to do this kind of science, we invent technologies and techniques along the way, new inventions that end up having totally unexpected usage in our daily lives. So the camera inside your iPhone was actually originally from Space Telescope that needed to optimize very, very efficient small light cameras. Lots of techniques that we use in astronomy actually led to advances in medical imagery or telecommunications or material science. So we end up benefiting humanity, and it's being driven by simply our human curiosity to answer all these questions. So
the Webb telescope right now, tell us where is it right now?
So it's orbiting around a spot called Lagrange 2 or L2, and it is at 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth. So that's 4 times farther away and then the moon.
Okay, 4 times away. Okay, 4 times farther than the moon. Okay.
So if something happens to the telescope, we cannot fix it. So we've made it quite self-sufficient, quite autonomous. And it's over there, and it's going to be observing the sky from that nice little safe point.
So what's next? I mean, it's going to keep sending back images. I mean, what is going to be the use of the telescope moving forward?
Yeah, so the telescope will now be used by the scientific community so that they can have their dreams come true and do their own research projects. So the first year of observations on the telescope have already been scheduled, and lots of that time, hundreds of hours, will go to Canadian astronomers so that they can study their favorite objects, their favorite exoplanet, their favorite galaxies, and they will share all these discoveries with the rest of the world. And that's my job, to make sure that the public is also on the ride with the scientific community.
So what do you hope will be the next discoveries? What's next? I mean, like you said, we always want to know what's next, what's the next frontier. And now we've done this and we're doing this. What do you hope that Webb will lead to?
So after the first exoplanet atmosphere that we looked at today, this was a gas giant planet, sort of like a Jupiter, but much, much hotter. We would love to be able to see something like that, but for a rocky planet that looks like the Earth this time. So some of the next observations we'll be doing on Webb will be that kind of planet, namely TRAPPIST-1, which has 7 rocky exoplanets, many of which might be habitable.
Really? So you're wow. So you're looking at planets that could be like Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Or once were like Earth, or anyways, and you have enough data, enough information from Webb to pinpoint that, to get that, to determine if a planet is like Earth.
Yeah, and that is the power of Webb, the fact that the data is high quality enough to do that.
And so, in terms of stars, I mean, so you're discovering new stars and new star systems with Webb?
We're studying star systems we already know, but we're discovering new planets around these stars, and we're studying them in greater detail than we've ever done before.
Wow. So, look, I want to thank you so much for coming on this afternoon. I know it's a huge day for you, and please keep up the tremendous work, and I hope we can have you on again to tell us the new discoveries we get from this great telescope. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
NATHALIE OUELLETTE is an outreach scientist for the Webb telescope.
The stories in the news that are worth your time. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Following the publication of a report by an international consortium of reporters about Uber's practices around the world, I spoke with Katie Wells, a postdoctoral researcher at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., who has published papers about Uber called The Uber Workplace in D.C. And she answers the question, could Uber's behavior be what got them into this mess? David Hertel with you. A major story broke last weekend. It was broke by an international consortium of investigative journalists about Uber and the way Uber developed its business model around the world, circumventing laws, regulations, also the way it lobbied governments in Europe, here in North America. There is a Quebec angle also to this story, but a lot of troubling stories coming out of this massive report. It was based on leaked documents, tens of thousands of emails. To make sense of all of this and what it means, I'm happy to be joined by Katie Wells, a postdoctoral researcher at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., who has published papers about Uber called The Uber Workplace in D.C., and she joins us now. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks, David, for having me.
So you were actually quoted in the piece from CBC News last weekend. And so what is your reaction to all these different revelations? And maybe you can give some examples to us of what struck you as most troubling.
Yeah, I mean, it is a troubling story. It shows in many ways how Uber's worldwide successes are really an impressive political feat, right? What they have really, sort of innovated is the way in which they've lobbied. Like the technology, sure, that's, a challenge to the taxi industry and transportation, but they have really, been the steadfast lobbying machine. And many of us who've been following them for the last decade have seen that, and I've tracked that in D.C. But what's, so, sort of breathtaking about this leak, the Uber files, is that it shows how much that continued to happen outside of North America. Yeah. And it continued as late as 2017. And so looking at all this tedious work, they didn't just win. They didn't just become a common sense solution for cities struggling with questions about transportation. They actually really fought and worked for it, but they did it in these insidious ways, in these like worrying ways.
So what was the MO? I mean, I saw when I read, like, for example, the way they operated in France and in the US and in Canada, seems to be always the same MO.
Yeah. Yeah, and they test. So what we found is that they really took the model and they had honed it in D.C. It was like batting practice.
So what was
in the U.S.?
Explain
the idea
that.
is they come in, they fight regulators and regulation, and they basically make an argument to say, if you believe in innovation, you're definitely against regulation. That regulation and the state and rulemaking as a collective enterprise is kind of antiquated. Like, let's move beyond that. And they sort of say, like, don't worry, like, we'll take care of everything. Like, oh, you want, disabled rider access? Well, we'll try to make that happen, but you don't need to, like, legislate us, or regulate it.
I remember here in Montreal, I was in government. I was in the Quebec government. I was a minister, but I wasn't responsible for taxis. But I remember Uber just showed up and didn't ask for any type of meetings, or they just showed up and started operating. And then we had to catch up, and they did lobby. There was, of course, a lot of interactions, but it's like they just started, and it's not the usual way businesses implant in a jurisdiction. Usually there are meetings, they sit down and we talk. No, they just started, and we had to just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was in many ways a genius enterprise, right? It was that whole don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. And the thing is, what's terrifying is it worked, right? It worked in all these jurisdictions. I mean, there was a great report, the National Employment Law Project, NELP in the U.S. They found in 1 year alone, in 2016, that Uber and Lyft together had more lobbyists than Amazon, Microsoft, and Walmart combined.
Wow.
I mean, it's stunning, right?
Right. No, it's fascinating.
So this trove of files really is sort of helping us see that tedious work involved in them sort of expanding and selling their worldview.
So you've been studying this very closely for years. So tell me.
Very depressing, David.
Yeah. But tell me, how do we react? What are the lessons that we need to learn and implement? What do governments have to do? And I'm not necessarily just targeting Uber, but what did we miss?
Yes. So here's the thing, right? I think what we found is that it's not just that Uber came in and lobbied all these places and won. It's also that cities and policymakers understandably look to Uber as a solution. They have been struggling with deep-seated problems of urban, like, how do you make a city work well, right?
Right.
And so it's understandable that they turn to Uber as sort of a cheap solution. The mandate now, what I would say to policymakers now, is to say, wait a second, you have the opportunity to change the story. This does not need to be a done deal. There are plenty of policy variations on the question of Uber, as well as all of these new things like Uber Eats and DoorDash or, Grubhub. And we have an opportunity to sort of like shift the balance of power, I would say, and retake that, mandate of trying to make a democratic society.
So it's more about regulation, because what's scary right now when you name all these services that are out there is that they come in with, very attractive offers, promises, and they kill the market or they kill competition. And then we're stuck with only dealing with them, and then they start raising prices. So, and we have no data to say, well, what are the environmental impacts of people getting a candy bar delivered in a car? What's the congestion impact? Like, the world is maybe on fire, so maybe the idea of increasing delivery services, could raise some concerns. And now look. It is totally possible that these delivery and even ride-hail services are making the world better. But I'm an empiricist, and the workers that we've followed, we followed 40 Uber drivers for 5 years. I mean, it just isn't, the data isn't there yet. And so you're still studying this, obviously.
Yeah.
You're following this very carefully.
Look, these companies have the data. We would love them to release it. Show us that this is actually making the world, these cities, better, right?
Right.
But until they do that, there will be these renegade, researchers that will try to piece together the story from outside of the company, offices.
Well, that's all the time I have, but this is fascinating. I really appreciate you coming on today, and I congratulate you on your great work on this. Very, very interesting.
Great to talk with you, David.
This has been the Montreal Now podcast. I'm David Hertel. Have a great week.
This has been the Montreal Now podcast with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. Listen live on your radio weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on CJAD 800 or through the iHeartRadio app.